Captain Jake Morrison felt his stomach drop as the USS Blackstar came out of hyperspace. The bridge crew worked at their stations, checking readings and running scans. Everyone expected to see the biggest space battle in human history. Instead, they saw nothing. Empty space stretched in all directions. No ships, no explosions, no wreckage floating in the dark. Just stars and silence. "Sir, I'm not reading anything on sensors," said Chief Science Officer Lisa Park. Her voice carried confusion and worry. She ran the scan again, then a third time. Each time showed the same impossible result. "That can't be right," Commander Alex Turner said from his position next to the captain's chair. "The entire Terran Defense Fleet was here 3 days ago. 2,000 ships fighting the Zephyrian Armada. Where did they go?" Jake stared out at the empty space through the main viewer. He had commanded the Blackstar for 5 years. He had seen strange things in deep space, but nothing like this. Battles, left marks, debris fields, energy signatures, radiation that lasted for weeks after the fighting stopped. Here, he saw nothing. "Run a full spectrum analysis," Jake ordered. "Check for quantum residue, gravitational distortions, anything that might tell us what happened here." Lisa's fingers moved across her console. Charts and numbers filled her screen. "Captain, according to all my readings, no battle ever took place in this sector. The space is completely clean. No trace of weapons fire, no hull fragments, no energy discharge residue. It's like the entire engagement was erased." Engineering Chief Maria Santos looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm picking up some strange quantum fluctuations. Very faint, but they're there. The pattern doesn't match any weapon signatures in our database." Jake walked to the center of the bridge. His crew looked to him for answers he didn't have. 2 days ago, Admiral Hayes had sent a message from the flagship Intrepid. The human fleet was winning, but taking heavy losses. The Zephyrians fought harder than anyone expected. Then silence. "Show me the last transmission from Admiral Hayes," Jake said. Communication Officer Ryan Murphy brought up the recording on the main screen. Admiral Hayes appeared, her gray hair messy and her uniform torn. Behind her, the bridge of the Intrepid showed signs of battle damage. "All ships, continue the attack pattern," Hess said in the recording. "We've broken their front line. The Zephyrians are falling back to their command ships. Victory is within reach, but they're fighting like cornered animals. All ships report heavy casualties." The transmission cut to static, then nothing. "That was 47 hours ago," Ryan said. "No communications since then." Dr. Nathan Cross, the ship's science expert on alien life, stepped forward. "Captain, I've been thinking about this. What if we're not looking at the aftermath of a battle? What if something else happened here?" "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The lack of debris, the clean energy readings, the quantum fluctuations Maria detected. This doesn't look like destruction. It looks like removal, as if someone or something took everything away." The bridge fell quiet. The idea that someone could move 2 entire fleets without a trace seemed impossible. The Terran Defense Fleet alone had over 1,000 ships. The Zephyrian Armada was even larger. Moving that much mass and energy would require technology beyond anything humans or Zephyrians possessed. "Navigation, give me our exact position," Jake ordered. Steve Collins checked his instruments. "We're at the correct coordinates, Captain. This is definitely where the battle should have taken place. The star positions match our navigation data perfectly." Jake turned to his tactical officer. "Kelly, run a threat assessment. Assume something powerful enough to move entire fleets is still in the area." Lieutenant Commander Kelly White activated the ship's defensive systems. Shields at full power, weapons ready. "I'm scanning for any ships or structures that might be hiding from our sensors." "Sir," Lisa called out, her voice tight with concern. "I'm detecting something unusual about the space itself in this region." Time dilation readings suggest temporal distortion. Very slight, but measurable. Jake felt cold sweat on his back. Time distortion meant someone had been playing with the fundamental forces of reality. Human science could barely detect such things, let alone create them. How long would it take to scan the entire battle zone? Jake asked. At least 6 hours for a complete sweep, Lisa replied. The engagement area covered nearly half a light year. Jake made his decision. Set us to yellow. Alert. Begin a systematic search pattern. I want every piece of space examined. If there's even a single bolt or piece of metal left from those fleets, I want it found. The USS Blackstar moved through the empty battlefield like a shark hunting for blood. In clear water, the ship's sensors reached out in all directions, searching for any sign of the missing fleets. Hours passed with no results. Dr. Cross studied the quantum readings from his science station. Captain, these energy patterns are unlike anything I've seen. They don't match Terran or Zephyrian technology. The quantum signature suggests massive manipulation of spacetime itself. Could the Zephyrians have developed some new weapon? Alex asked. Not likely, Cross replied. This level of technology would require understanding of physics that neither our species possesses. We're talking about forces that could reshape reality itself. Maria looked up from her engineering console. Sir, I'm detecting traces of exotic matter in the area. Particles that shouldn't exist in normal space. Whatever happened here involved technology far beyond current understanding. Jake studied the empty space on the viewer. Somewhere out there, thousands of human sailors were missing. Men and women he had served with, friends he had known for years. Admiral Hayes had been his mentor when he first became a captain. He couldn't accept that they were simply gone without explanation. Ryan, send a message to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Tell them we've arrived at the battle coordinates and found no trace of either fleet. Request instructions and any information about experimental weapons or unknown alien contact. Message sent, sir. At this distance, we should receive a reply in about 18 hours. The bridge crew continued their work, but Jake could feel the tension in the air. Everyone knew they were dealing with something beyond normal military experience. The missing fleets represented the largest concentration of human military power ever assembled. If something could make them vanish without a trace, what did that mean for Earth and all human colonies? Captain, Kelly called out from Tactical. I'm picking up a very faint signal from the edge of the distortion field. It's heavily degraded, but it appears to be human in origin. Jake's heart jumped. Can you clean it up? Working on it now, sir. Kelly's fingers danced across her controls. Static filled the bridge speakers, then slowly cleared to reveal a broken voice transmission. This is Admiral Hayes to all ships. The Zephyrians have stopped fighting. There. Just staring at something behind us. I can see shapes in space that shouldn't exist. Geometric patterns that hurt to look at. Our instruments can't make sense of what we're seeing. More static, then Hayes' voice again, more distant and filled with fear. The Zephyrian ships are disappearing. Not exploding, not retreating. They're becoming transparent, and then they're gone. Something is coming toward us. Something that makes space itself bend around it. All ships prepare for. The transmission cut to silence. Jake stood in the quiet of his bridge, staring at the empty space where thousands of ships and crews had simply stopped existing. Whatever they were dealing with, it was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. The USS Blackstar was alone in a mystery that challenged everything they knew about war, physics, and their place in the universe. The USS Blackstar moved through the empty battlefield for 2 full days. Captain Jake Morrison barely slept during that time. He stayed on the bridge, watching his crew work to solve the impossible mystery of the missing fleets. Captain, I'm detecting more of those quantum readings, Engineering Chief Maria Santos reported. The patterns are getting stronger as we move toward the center of where the battle should have happened. Jake studied the data on his command screen. The energy signatures looked like nothing in human records. They pulsed in complex patterns that seemed almost alive. Are we in any danger from these readings? I don't think so, sir. But I can't be sure. This type of energy is completely unknown to our science. Chief Science Officer Lisa Park looked up from her station with tired eyes. She had been working non-stop since they arrived. Captain, I've been analyzing the quantum distortions. The energy pattern suggests something incredible happened here. Not destruction, but translocation. Translocation? Commander Alex Turner asked. You mean everything was moved somewhere else? That's what the data suggests. Imagine picking up every ship in both fleets and placing them somewhere else. The energy required would be enormous, but the quantum signatures match that kind of massive displacement. Dr. Nathan Cross joined the conversation. That would explain why we're not finding any debris. Both fleets might still exist, just not in this location. Jake felt a small spark of hope. If the fleets had been moved rather than destroyed, Admiral, Hayes and thousands of human sailors might still be alive. Can you determine where they were moved to? Lisa shook her head. The quantum trail goes cold after a few thousand kilometers. Whatever moved them has technology that can hide dimensional signatures. Navigation Officer Steve Collins called out from his station. Captain, I'm getting some very strange readings from my instruments. According to stellar positioning, we're in the right place. But according to atomic decay measurements, this region of space shows signs of temporal manipulation. Jake walked over to Steve's station. The navigation display showed conflicting data that made his head hurt to look at. Explain that in simple terms. Time itself has been changed in this area, sir. Someone or something has the ability to manipulate time as well as space. The technology required for that is beyond anything we understand. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. An enemy that could move fleets through space and manipulate time itself was beyond anything humanity could fight. Earth's most advanced weapons would be useless against such power. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Kelly White called from Tactical. I'm detecting trace amounts of exotic matter throughout this region. These particles don't exist in normal space-time. They're like footprints left by whatever technology was used here. Jake returned to his command chair. His crew was uncovering evidence of technology that seemed almost godlike in its capabilities. He had to make decisions based on information that challenged everything he knew about physics and warfare. Ryan, any response from Earth Command yet? Jake asked. Communication Officer Ryan Murphy checked his console. Not yet, sir. We should receive their reply in about 6 hours. Jake nodded and turned to his science team. I want a full analysis of everything we found. Compare it to every piece of data in our computers. If there's anything in human records that might explain this, I want to know about it. The next. Several hours passed slowly. The crew worked with quiet determination, analyzing the impossible energy readings and exotic matter traces. The USS Blackstar continued its search pattern, but Jake began to suspect they wouldn't find any normal evidence of the missing fleets. Captain, Dr. Cross called out. I've been thinking about Admiral Hayes' last transmission. She mentioned geometric shapes that hurt to look at. That description matches theoretical models of higher dimensional objects intersecting with our three-dimensional space. You're talking about beings from another dimension? Jake asked. It's possible. If a four-dimensional or five-dimensional entity entered our space, it would appear as shifting geometric patterns that our minds couldn't properly process. The visual effect would be exactly what Admiral Hayes described. Maria looked up from her engineering station. Sir, that would explain the exotic matter readings. Interaction between higher dimensions and our space-time would create particles that don't normally exist. Jake felt like he was falling down a hole with no bottom. First missing fleets, then time manipulation, now beings from other dimensions. Each discovery made their situation seem more hopeless. "Contact from Earth Command coming in," Ryan announced. Jake straightened in his chair. "Put it on screen." Admiral Patricia Wells appeared on the main viewer. She looked older than Jake remembered, with new lines of worry around her eyes. "Captain Morrison, we've received your report. The situation is more serious than we initially thought." "What do you mean, Admiral?" 3 other search ships have reported similar findings in different sectors. The USS Phoenix found empty space where a mining colony should have been. The USS Ranger discovered that an entire Zephyrian outpost has vanished. Something is making large groups of people disappear without a trace. Jake felt ice in his veins. "How many people are we talking about?" "Nearly 50,000 humans and an unknown number of Zephyrians, all gone without any sign of struggle or destruction. Your discovery of the missing fleets fits a pattern we're only beginning to understand. Do we have any idea what's causing this?" Admiral Wells shook her head. "Our best scientists are working on the problem. But Captain, I have new orders for you. Continue your investigation, but be prepared to retreat immediately if you encounter anything that might be responsible for these disappearances." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw his own fears reflected in their faces. They were dealing with something that could make entire colonies vanish, and their ship might be next. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "I'm picking up something new on sensors." A very faint signal coming from the edge of the quantum distortion field. Jake felt his pulse quicken. "What kind of signal?" "It's weak and heavily damaged, but it appears to." "Dia recording, human origin. Can you clean it up?" Lisa worked at her console for several minutes. Static filled the bridge speakers, then slowly cleared to reveal Admiral Hell's voice. But this recording was different from the transmission they had heard before. "Personal log, Admiral Sarah Hayes. I don't know if anyone will ever hear this. The Zephyrians have stopped attacking us. They're just floating in space, staring at something behind our fleet. I can see it too now. Shapes that don't belong in our reality. They're beautiful and terrible at the same time." More static, then Hayes' voice continued, filled with wonder and fear. "The beings are trying to communicate. Not with words or signals, but directly into our minds. They're saying something about preservation and protection. The Zephyrian Admiral is receiving the same message. I think they're trying to tell us why they're here." The recording broke up again, then Hayes' voice returned one final time. "They call themselves the Architects. They say our war threatens something larger than we understand. They're going to move us somewhere safe until we can learn to." The transmission cut to silence. Jake sat in his command chair, processing what they had just heard. The missing fleets hadn't been destroyed or captured. They had been moved by beings called the Architects, apparently for their own protection. But protection from what? "Captain," Kelly reported from Tactical, "I'm detecting new energy readings. The quantum distortions are increasing in intensity." Jake stood up, every instinct telling him they were about to encounter something beyond human understanding. All hands red alert. Prepare for possible contact with unknown entities. The bridge lights dimmed to combat lighting as the USS Blackstar prepared to meet the Architects. The red alert siren stopped, but the bridge of the USS Blackstar remained tense. Captain Jake Morrison watched the main viewer as space itself began to change around them. The stars seemed to bend and twist, creating patterns that made his eyes water. "Sir, the quantum distortions are off the charts," Chief Science Officer Lisa Park reported. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. "Something big is about to happen." Lieutenant Commander Kelly White gripped her tactical controls. "Weapons are ready, Captain. Though I'm not sure what we could shoot at." Jake was about to respond when the air on the bridge began to shimmer. 3 forms appeared near the center of the bridge. passing through the ship's hull like it wasn't there. The security systems didn't even notice them. The beings were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They looked somewhat human but seemed to be made of pure light and energy. Their shapes kept changing, shifting between solid forms and geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. When they moved, space around them rippled like water. "Do not be afraid," one of them said. The voice came from everywhere at once, bypassing their ears and speaking directly into their minds. "We are the architects. We have been waiting for you to find us." Dr. Nathan Cross stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "You're the ones who moved the fleets. Where are they? Are they safe?" The lead architect turned toward Cross. Its form shifted to something more human-like, perhaps trying to make them more comfortable. "The concepts of safe and unsafe are limited. In your understanding, the beings you seek exist in a state of preservation." "What does that mean?" Jake demanded, finding his voice. "Speak plainly. Where are our people? Your species thinks in terms of here and there, now and then. Reality is more complex. Your fleets exist in a pocket of space-time where they are protected from the damage they were causing." Engineering Chief Maria Santos looked up from her console. "Captain, my instruments can barely register these beings. They're reading as massive energy patterns, but they're also not completely here. They exist partially in our dimension and partially somewhere else." The second architect spoke, its voice like music made of mathematics. "We have observed your conflict with the Zephyrian Empire for many of your years. Your weapons have grown powerful enough to damage the fabric of space itself." Commander Alex Turner stepped beside Jake. "You're saying our war was threatening space-time? Your understanding is crude but correct. The quantum torpedoes and dimensional cannons used by both sides create tears in reality. These tears spread and grow. If left unchecked, they would eventually consume entire star systems." Jake felt sick. The human fleet had been proud of their new weapons, thinking they were tools of defense. "So you removed both fleets to stop the damage?" The third architect moved closer, its form shifting into something that almost looked like Admiral Hayes. "We relocated both military forces to a dimensional pocket where they could continue their conflict without harming the greater structure of reality." "Continue their conflict?" Jake asked. "You mean they're still fighting? They exist in a state of quantum superposition. All possible outcomes of their battle play out simultaneously until one side achieves true victory or discovers a better solution." Chief Medical Officer Dan Price had been monitoring the crew's vital signs during the encounter. "Captain, the crew is stable, but these beings are affecting our brain chemistry just by being here. I'm detecting changes in neural activity patterns." Jake ignored the medical report and focused on the architects. "Take us to them. Take us to our people." "That is not possible. Your ship would be destroyed by the dimensional transition. Your technology is insufficient." "Then send us back to where they came from. Return them to normal space." The lead architect's form became more solid, more human-like. "That choice is not ours to make alone. Your species must prove it has evolved beyond the destructive patterns." "That brought us here." Dr. Cross stepped forward again. "What kind of proof do you want?" "Your Captain Morrison has already begun the process by challenging our authority. This shows promise. Few younger races question beings of our power." Jake realized they were being tested. "You want to see if we're worthy of survival? Worthy is a crude concept. We seek to determine if your species possesses the wisdom to exist alongside others without destroying the foundations of reality itself." Navigation Officer Steve Collins looked up from his station. "Sir, I'm detecting massive space-time distortions building around us. It's like they're preparing to open a doorway to somewhere else." The architects moved closer together, their forms blending and separating in patterns that made geometry seem fluid. "We will offer you a choice, Captain Morrison. You may attempt to retrieve your displaced fleets, but success will require more than military force. What will it require? Jake asked. Understanding, growth, the wisdom to see beyond the primitive concepts of victory and defeat that have driven your conflict with the Zephyrians. Kelly looked up from her tactical station. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout this region. Whatever they're planning to do, it's going to be big. The second architect addressed Kelly directly. Your weapons officer understands. Force. This is natural for your species. But the test we offer requires different tools. What kind of test? Alex asked. You will enter the dimensional pocket where your fleets exist. There you will witness all possible outcomes of their conflict simultaneously. Your task is not to win the battle, but to find a solution that serves the survival of both species. Maria looked up from her engineering console. Sir, they're offering to modify our ship systems. I'm seeing changes to our dimensional stabilizers that I didn't authorize. Do not fear the modifications, the lead architect said. Your vessel must be prepared for existence in non-linear space-time. Without these changes, you would be destroyed instantly. Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He was being asked to take his ship and crew into an unknown dimension to face a challenge that could determine humanity's future. But thousands of human lives depended on his decision. If we fail this test, what happens to the fleets? They continue to exist in their current state until the heat death of the universe. A form of immortality, but not one your species would consider desirable. And if we succeed, both fleets return to normal space-time. But more importantly, your species will have proven itself capable of growth beyond its current limitations. Doctor. Cross was studying readings on his tablet. Captain, the energy patterns around us suggest they're creating a gateway to another dimension. The physics involved are incredible. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people who had followed him through dangerous missions before. Now he was asking them to risk everything on the word of beings they barely understood. What guarantee do we have that you're telling the truth? Jake asked the architects. Truth is not something we can prove to you. You must choose to trust, or choose to turn away. But know this, the destructive path your species and the Zephyrians were following leads to the annihilation of dozens of worlds. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of ship systems. Jake studied the shifting forms of the architects and thought about Admiral Hayes and the thousands of people depending on his decision. If we enter this dimensional pocket, will we be able to communicate with our people? Communication will be possible, but different from what you understand. In nonlinear space-time, thoughts and intentions carry more weight than words. Jake made his choice. We accept your test. Prepare our ship for dimensional transition. The architects moved apart, their forms becoming brighter and more complex. The modification of your vessel begins now. Prepare yourselves for existence beyond the normal flow of time and space. As the USS Blackstar began to change around them, Jake hoped he had made the right decision for his crew and for humanity itself. The USS Blackstar shuddered as it entered the dimensional pocket created by the architects. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as reality twisted around them. The main viewer showed impossible sights that made his brain struggle to understand what he was seeing. Space folded in on itself like origami made of stars. The Terran Defense Fleet and the Zephyrian Armada existed in multiple states at once. Jake could see the same ships fighting, retreating, exploding, and winning all at the same time. It was like watching every possible outcome of the battle happening together. Captain, our instruments are going crazy, Engineering Chief Maria Santos reported. I'm reading thousands of different versions of the same ships. They're all real, but they're also not real. I don't know how to explain it. Chief Science Officer Lisa Park stared at her readings in amazement. We're in a space where time doesn't flow in one direction. Past, present, and future are all happening at once. The fleets are experiencing every possible variation of their conflict simultaneously. Dr. Nathan Cross pointed at the viewer. Look at that Zephyrian battleship. In one version it's destroyed, in another it's victorious, and in a third it's retreating. All these realities exist together. Commander Alex Turner studied the tactical display. How do we even begin to understand this? Military strategy doesn't work when every strategy is happening at the same time. Jake watched the impossible battle playing out before them. He could see Admiral Hayes on the bridge of the Intrepid. But there were dozens of versions of her. In some, she looked confident and strong. In others, she appeared wounded or afraid. All versions seemed equally real. Ryan, can you establish communication with any of the ships? Jake asked. Communication Officer Ryan Murphy worked at his console. I'm trying, sir, but the signals are strange. I'm receiving messages from the same ships that contradict each other. Admiral Hayes is reporting victory and defeat at the same time. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Kelly White called from Tactical. I'm detecting something else in here with us. It's not human or Zephyrian. It looks like a ship, but it's different from anything in our databases. Jake looked where Kelly was, pointing. A sleek vessel with organic curves hung in the twisted space. It seemed more grown than built, with flowing lines that reminded him of living creatures. That's not one of ours, Alex observed. And it doesn't match Zephyrian design either. Suddenly, the strange ship began moving toward them. As it approached, Jake could see it was beautiful and alien at the same time. Lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. Incoming transmission, Ryan announced. It's not using any communication system I recognize, but somehow we're receiving it. A voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English but with an accent Jake had never heard before. Human vessel, I am Admiral Kef VA of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Do not be alarmed. In this place, enemies can speak as friends. Jake stood up slowly. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Blackstar. How are you able to communicate with us? In this dimension, thoughts and intentions carry more weight than technology. I can understand your words because I wish to understand them. You can hear mine for the same reason. Dr. Cross leaned forward. Admiral Kef VA, what has your experience been in this pocket dimension? Confusing and enlightening, the Zephyrian replied. I have watched my fleet win and lose this battle countless times. I have seen every strategy, every tactic, every possible outcome, and I have learned something important. What have you learned? Jake asked. That this war serves neither of our peoples. We fight because we have always fought. We destroy each other's worlds because destruction is all we know. But in this place, I have seen what happens after every victory. The winners always lose in the end. Maria looked up from her console. Captain, I'm detecting Admiral Hayes on the Intrepid. Her ship is stable in this reality, more solid than the others. Open a channel to the Intrepid, Jake ordered. Admiral. Hayes appeared on the main screen. She looked older and wiser than Jake remembered, as if she had experienced lifetimes in this strange place. Jake, thank God you're here. How long have we been in this dimensional pocket? 3 days in normal space, Admiral. But time works differently here, doesn't it? Hayes nodded. I've been experiencing this battle for what feels like years. I've seen every possible way it could end. Victory, defeat, mutual destruction, retreat. But Jake, I've learned something important. None of the traditional endings work. What do you mean? Even when we win completely, we lose. The resources spent on this war drain both our civilizations. The hatred between our people spreads to other systems. Eventually, everyone suffers. Admiral Kef Via's voice joined the conversation. Your Admiral Hayes speaks truth. I have reached the same conclusion. This conflict serves only those who profit from our mutual destruction. Jake felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. You're saying someone else benefits from this war? The war machine companies, Hayes replied. The weapons manufacturers, the military contractors, the corporations that strip mine contested worlds while we fight over them. They sell to both sides and grow rich while our people die. HFY's ship moved closer to the Blackstar. In this place of infinite possibilities, I have seen the truth behind our conflict. Shadow corporations manipulate both our governments. They create incidents that force us to fight. They ensure the war never truly ends. Lisa looked up from her science station. Captain, I'm detecting something else. The quantum patterns in this space are being influenced by our conversation. The multiple realities are starting to converge. Jake studied the main viewer. The chaotic overlapping battles were beginning to focus into fewer possibilities. Ships that had existed in multiple states were becoming more solid, more real. The architect said we needed to find a solution that serves both species, Jake said. I think we're on the right track. Dr. Cross was analyzing the dimensional readings. The space around us is stabilizing. Our thoughts and intentions are actually reshaping this pocket dimension. Admiral HFY spoke again. Captain Morrison, I propose something that would have been impossible in normal space. An alliance between our fleets. Not to continue fighting, but to investigate the forces that created this war. Hayes leaned forward on the screen. Jake, I've been thinking the same thing. We need to combine our resources to hunt down the real enemy. The puppet masters who've been playing our peoples against each other. Jake looked at his crew. They were listening intently, understanding that this moment would define not just their mission, but the future of human-Zephyrian relations. What you're proposing would mean completely changing how our species interact, Jake said. Change is necessary. HFY replied. I have seen the end result of our current path. It leads to the destruction of both our civilizations and the suffering of countless innocent people. Alex stepped forward. Captain, if what they're saying is true, then everything we've been fighting for has been a lie. We've been pawns in someone else's game. Kelly looked up from tactical. Sir, the battle formations around us are changing. Ships from both fleets are moving into defensive positions instead of attacking each other. It's like they're responding to this conversation. Jake made his decision. Admiral Hayes, Admiral HFY, I support the alliance proposal, but how do we make it work? Our peoples have been enemies for decades. We start with truth, Hayes replied. We investigate the shadow corporations together. We share intelligence and resources. We prove to both our governments that cooperation serves everyone better than conflict. HFY's ship moved alongside the Blackstar in a gesture of partnership. The first step is to return to normal space together, to show both our peoples that former enemies can become allies. As if responding to their agreement, the twisted space around them began to straighten. The multiple realities collapsed into a single timeline where human and Zephyrian ships flew side by side instead of firing at each other. Captain, Lisa reported with excitement, the dimensional pocket is dissolving. We're returning to normal space-time. Jake smiled as he watched former enemies working together. The test was complete, and humanity had chosen wisdom over warfare. The USS Blackstar emerged from the dimensional pocket alongside the combined human and Zephyrian fleets. Captain Jake Morrison watched in amazement as enemy ships that had been trying to destroy each other now flew in perfect formation. The sight filled him with hope and worry at the same time. All ships are reporting successful transition to normal space, Communication Officer Ryan Murphy announced. Both fleets are maintaining the alliance formation we established in the pocket dimension. Admiral Hayes appeared on the main screen from the bridge of the Intrepid. Her face showed the wisdom of someone who had experienced every possible outcome of war. Jake, we need to move quickly. The longer we stay together out here, the more likely our governments will order us to resume fighting. Agreed, said Admiral HFY, whose ship moved gracefully beside the human vessels. My Imperial Command will not understand this alliance. Without proof of the Shadow Corporation's manipulation. Chief Science Officer Lisa Park looked up from her station. Captain, I'm detecting the architects. They're still here, watching us. The beings of pure energy appeared on the bridge once more, their forms more stable than before. The lead architect seemed pleased, if such emotions applied to beings of their nature. You have exceeded our expectations, the architect said, voice filling their minds. Most species choose destruction, even when presented with better alternatives. You have chosen growth. Dr. Nathan Cross stepped forward. Will you help us prove what we learned in the dimensional pocket? Our governments need to see the evidence of manipulation. Evidence exists in many forms. We will provide you with quantum recordings of the Shadow Corporation's activities. But the greater task belongs to you. Engineering Chief Maria Santos received data streams directly into the ship's computers. Captain, I'm getting massive amounts of information. Financial records, communication intercepts, shipping manifests. This is proof of corporations selling weapons to both sides, while secretly mining contested worlds. Jake studied the incoming data. The evidence was overwhelming. Companies with innocent names had been profiting from the war for decades. They created false intelligence reports, staged incidents, and manipulated both governments into continued conflict. Admiral HFY. Jake called out, Are you receiving this data? Yes, Captain Morrison. My science officers are analyzing it now. The evidence shows systematic manipulation of both our species. This information will change everything. Commander Alex Turner pointed at the tactical display. Sir, we're getting incoming ships. Human and Zephyrian reinforcements are arriving. They probably think both fleets are under attack. Jake saw the new arrivals on the viewer. Dozens of warships from both sides were dropping out of hyperspace, weapons ready for battle. The peaceful moment was about to become a dangerous confrontation. All ships maintain alliance formation, Admiral Hayes ordered over the combined fleet communication channel. Do not power weapons. Let them see that we stand together. The approaching human fleet was led by Admiral Robert Grant, Hayes' superior officer. His face appeared on screen looking confused and angry. Admiral Hayes, explain why you're flying alongside enemy vessels. Have you been captured? Admiral Grant, we have not been captured. We have discovered the truth about this war. The enemy is not the Zephyrians. The enemy is the shadow corporations that have been manipulating both our peoples. That's impossible. You've clearly been compromised. All human ships prepare to engage the Zephyrian fleet. Jake watched as the situation spiraled toward disaster. Months of fighting could resume in seconds if someone made the wrong move. He had to act quickly. Admiral Grant, this is Captain Morrison of the USS Blackstar. I'm transmitting data that proves Admiral Hayes is correct. The war has been artificially created and maintained by corporate interests. Lieutenant Commander Kelly White monitored the tactical situation. Captain, the new arrivals are powering weapons. Both human and Zephyrian ships are preparing for battle. Admiral HFY's voice carried across the communication channels. Fleet. Commander Zephy's. I am Admiral HFY. Do not attack the human vessels. We have formed an alliance based on mutual need and shared discovery. The Zephyrian commander's response was swift and angry. Admiral HFY, you have betrayed your own species. Prepare to face the consequences of treason. Jake realized that words alone wouldn't prevent the battle. He needed to show both sides something that would make them pause. Lisa, can you project the architect's evidence on a frequency both fleets can receive? Working on it, Captain. Transmitting. The financial records and communication intercepts now. The proof spread across both fleets' communication networks. Corporate documents showing weapon sales to both sides. Secret mining operations on contested worlds. False intelligence reports designed to escalate conflicts. The evidence was impossible to deny. Admiral Grant's expression changed as he studied. The data. This information suggests systematic deception spanning decades. How do we know it's authentic? The architects provided the answer. Their energy forms appeared simultaneously on every ship in both fleets. When beings capable of manipulating space-time themselves vouched for the evidence, denial became impossible. The data is accurate, the lead architect announced to all ships. The shadow corporations you will identify have manipulated dozens of conflicts across the galaxy. Your war is only one of many they have created for profit. Fleet Commander Zephes spoke carefully. If this evidence is true, then both our peoples have been victims of the same enemy. But how do we know we can trust each other? Admiral Hayes had the answer. We start with small steps. Joint investigations of the corporations. Shared intelligence about their operations. Gradual cooperation that builds trust over time. Jake stepped forward with a proposal. I suggest we formalize this alliance with a treaty. Something both governments can review and approve. We call it the Blackstar Accords, after the ship that brought us together. Over the next several hours, representatives from both fleets worked together to draft the agreement. The Blackstar Accords established the first human-Zephyrian alliance in galactic history. The treaty included joint military operations against the shadow corporations, shared research initiatives, and cultural exchange programs. Dr. Cross worked with Zephyrian scientists to analyze the corporate networks. Captain, the shadow corporations are more extensive than we imagined. They've been manipulating conflicts throughout this entire sector of the galaxy. Maria coordinated with Zephyrian engineers to share technology and defensive strategies. Sir, working together, our combined fleets are much more effective than either side alone. We complement each other's strengths. Admiral Grant and Fleet Commander Zephes signed the Blackstar Accords after their governments approved the treaty. The signing ceremony took place aboard the USS Blackstar, with representatives from both species working side by side. This alliance changes everything, Admiral Hayes told Jake privately. You've helped create something that will reshape galactic politics. The architects appeared one final time before departing. You have proven that wisdom can overcome ancient hatreds. But your true test lies ahead. The shadow corporations will not surrender their profits easily. Jake was promoted to admiral and given command of the new, combined fleet. The USS Blackstar became the flagship of the joint human-Zephyrian task force dedicated to hunting down the war profiteers. Lisa's analysis of architect technology led to breakthroughs in dimensional physics that revolutionized space travel. The alliance opened new possibilities for exploration and discovery that neither species could have achieved alone. But the greatest discovery came when the combined fleet investigated the Shadow Corporation's headquarters. They found evidence of an even older threat behind the manipulation. Ancient parasitic entities that fed on conflict and suffering had been secretly influencing galactic civilization for thousands of years. The corporations were just puppets. The real enemy was something far more dangerous and subtle. Jake realized that humanity's alliance with the Zephyrians was only the beginning of a much larger struggle. As the USS Blackstar led the combined fleet toward their first joint mission against the shadow networks, Jake understood that they had not ended a war, but discovered a greater purpose. Together, humans and Zephyrians would fight for the freedom of all galactic civilization from the parasites that fed on their conflicts. The empty battlefield where their journey began had become the birthplace of something far greater than either species had imagined possible.